Humans go into space more often than we go into the deep ocean. But on the latest Spectacular Specimens,
KUOW's podcast for curious kids and adults,
we'll dive into the depths to meet one of the planet's most unusual creatures.
Listen to Spectacular Specimens on the KUOW app.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hearing static when you enter a tunnel in the middle of a fascinating story? Hanging out in your driveway to catch the end of a report? We've been there. With the KUOW app, you can listen to your favorite programs anytime and anywhere. No driveways required. Let's get going. Download the KUOW app now, available for iOS and Android.
I was in Whistler a few weeks ago, and it gave dry January a whole new meaning. There was no snow in the village, and up on the slopes, it was icy. As I skidded down the mountain on man-made snow, I asked myself, did I really pay $250 for this? I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
I'm Joshua McNichols, and this is Booming, a podcast about the economic forces shaping our lives and our skiing here in the Pacific Northwest.
Skiing was never cheap, but it used to be accessible to families and casual skiers.
Go that way, really fast. If something gets in your way, turn.
Skiing used to be a community-oriented sport, not a luxury industry. The resorts were really run by skiers and for skiers, not big investment firms that are focused on revenue per skier visit.
Today, why have the slopes turned into a playground for the rich? And as snow becomes even more scarce, can we find a way for everyone to access the mountains? That's coming up.
Maybe we ski the Beast after lunch.
I'll do that, Dad.
I don't think it'll be that challenging. It looks black, but it skis red.
Really?
American blue. They just call them black for the prestige.
Where did you hear that?
I just know it. Yeah, it'll be fine.
I want to start right off the bat with the obvious question. Why has skiing gotten so expensive?
So expensive. There are a few things happening here. First, the economics of running a ski area are just tricky. Everyone will tell you that. But the experts that I talked to also said that climate change is partially to blame.
The snowpack in and around the Pacific Northwest is shrinking significantly, and it's only getting worse.
Average annual snowfall is decreasing every year, according to the EPA.
In the last 75 years, our snowpack has decreased as much as 50 to 60%.
And that's a risk for ski resorts. Less snow means fewer people are heading to the slopes and buying those single-day lift tickets that have gotten so exorbitant. The companies that run these ski areas, they want to get people to buy season passes before the season starts so that they can count on revenue even if it doesn't snow very much. And the way that you do that is by making those single-day tickets so expensive that it doesn't really make sense to buy them if you're going to go skiing more than 1 or 2 times a year.
Yeah. Man, I've been skiing less and less these days because it's gotten so expensive. But just last week, I was at this place called Sipapu in New Mexico, which is this little podunk ski resort where you can still ski for like under $30.
Under $30. Wow, that's a rarity these days.
Yeah, but they barely had any snow, so only like a third of the mountain was open.
Okay, well, that sounds similar to when I was at Whistler in January.
Yeah, so that all checks out. What else is happening to make skiing so expensive?
Well, those risks associated with climate change, the lower snowfall, they're also leading to corporate consolidation in the industry. Most small local ski hills, like the one that you were just at, or another example is Badger Mountain here in Washington, which is a nonprofit that keeps prices really low. They can't really weather 1 or 2 bad years where there's no revenue coming in. Sometimes they even refund tickets if there's really bad snow. And when they find themselves in financial trouble, they get scooped up by the big Goliaths in the industry, like Vail Resorts, which has acquired 42 ski areas around the world over the past few decades. Vail is now the owner of Stevens Pass near Seattle and Whistler, where I just was.
Yeah, and they have much higher lift prices because of that?
Yeah, these companies, they have an incentive to buy as many of these little ski areas around the world as they can because it mitigates their risk. You know, the Northwest could have really low snowfalls, but then they offset that with ski areas in different climates or even different hemispheres sometimes. And now that the industry is more consolidated, there's less competition. So these companies have more power to push skiers to buy season passes. And they also have really sophisticated technology, like using algorithms to set prices that are based on the exact maximum amount that a customer is willing to pay on any given ski day.
Oh, no. It sounds like dynamic pricing, kind of like the same thing that's pushing sports tickets prices so high.
Yeah, it's something that we're seeing across industries. Plus, those companies, the big ones, they have the capital to buy up everything around the slopes. So lodging, restaurants, they have incentives to turn small local mountains into these luxury resort destinations. Whistler is the prime example of this. They've got tons of lodging and restaurants all around the base of the mountain and even midway up the mountain.
Oh, no. Okay, so given these trends, it kind of sounds like skiing is just going to get more expensive. So is there any hope that a casual skier or a skier without a lot of money, maybe somebody who earns a public radio salary, can go on more than one ski trip a year? Is the ski bum going to go extinct?
I'm glad you asked that because a few weeks ago, the New York Times had a story with the headline, Revenge of the Ski Bums. And it was about our neighbors to the south in Oregon. The corporate owner of the Mount Bachelor Ski Resort near Bend, Oregon, is putting the ski area up for sale. It's a company called Powder. And the community wants to buy it.
Wow. Okay. A community is basically bringing all the resources together to buy like a mountain. That seems like such a gargantuan task.
Yeah, it's kind of a David and Goliath story. So Mount Bachelor Community Inc. was started by Chris Porter and another Bend skier. And they were just joking about buying the mountain on Facebook.
Within 24 hours, we had over 2,000 inbound emails. We found out that you can indeed use up all the data on a free Google account. So it just was one of those things that we caught lightning in a bottle. I think we said out loud what everybody else was feeling.
Chris and his partner have collected millions of dollars from institutional investors, and they've actually put in an offer to buy the mountain from Powder.
Wow, I'm amazed that they were able to scrape together that much cash. I mean, 2,000 emails, it sounds like a lot of support, but, even if everybody gave several $100s, that's not going to get you a mountain.
Yeah, well, that partially is because Bend is this quirky place that's like ski bums, but also has a surprisingly strong investor community. It's kind of like a mini startup hub that doesn't get quite as much attention as Seattle or Portland. But anyway, that's another episode. So because of federal regulations, the Mount Bachelor organization can only raise money from accredited investors at this stage. But if they're able to buy the ski area, their plan is to let members of the community become part owners who would get something like a dividend to offset the cost of lift tickets.
So it almost sounds like the Green Bay Packers of like ski resorts then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that sounds great, but I can't help but wonder if this is a good investment for the community because the problem at the core of this is that they're not getting enough snow. The season is unreliable. So are these communities just throwing their money away?
I asked Chris about that, and he said, yes, climate change plays a role, and this is a tough business. But at the same time, Mount Bachelor is a profitable ski area. And he said that these corporate owners are squeezing every last penny out of folks when they don't necessarily have to.
If we look at it in the past, resorts were priced their lift tickets based on operational costs, not complex dynamic pricing models that charge whatever the market will bear. So today with the big resorts, they use an algorithm to drive the pricing, where the peak season tickets can be like $250.
He says lift owners used to have different incentives because they were accountable to the community rather than their shareholders.
Those owners that had to saddle up at the local watering hole next to the folks that they saw in the chairlift, they kept prices low. They encouraged locals and families to participate, and they didn't really cater quite as much to these high-end tourists because the mountains were all separated.
In other words, climate change is part of the problem, but it's not the whole problem. Companies have incentives to create these expensive luxury resort destinations, while community owners might be more likely to create a place for locals.
How likely is the Mount Bachelor model of, local ownership, how likely is that to succeed and take off as a solution?
I think it's seen as kind of a long shot, although this model has been tested throughout Europe, and sometimes it works great, sometimes it doesn't. But there is another thing that could help. A lot of these ski areas are on federal land, right? They're national parks or U.S. Forest Service land. Those departments could regulate the cost of lift tickets. Michael Childers is a historian at Colorado State University, and he wrote a book on this.
The Forest Service promoted the development of ski resorts across the country because they saw that as fulfilling their mandate to provide recreational access.
He told me that the government used to cap the cost of lift tickets, believe it or not.
Until 1979, the Forest Service could regulate the cost of ski passes in various forests.
And he said that those decades before the era of deregulation in the 80s happened to be the period in U.S. history when skiing was the most accessible.
You know, it's so easy to forget that this is federal land, a lot of this, and that the government has an interest in like protecting our access to it. I totally forget that sometimes with these resorts, you know?
It is easy to forget, but if you think about it like hiking trails, you know, the government sees those as a way to access public land, which we all own. So it charges a small fee to maintain the trails and basically lets us use them for free. It could let the private sector take over management, and maybe they would create, you know, hiking resorts with cabins and restaurants and other amenities. Of course, it does cost a lot more to operate a ski lift area than hiking trails. So there's more of an incentive to bring in the private sector. And some of this might be a moot point because the Trump administration seems to have signaled that it doesn't have much of an appetite for this type of regulation. But it could be something that a future administration looks at.
It seems like we're in for such a big shakeup given the lower snowfall and stuff like that. Maybe that kind of a big shakeup could lead to a big change on the mountains eventually.
Yeah, I think ultimately it'll just depend on how we view skiing and access to these mountains, whether that is something that we think should be a publicly accessible, publicly subsidized experience for all, or whether it's going to become more of just a real luxury that only some people can do.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to race to find the cheapest lift tickets in Washington. Okay, welcome back. It's time for the end game, and we've got our producer, Lucy Suchek, here to walk us through it.
Yes, hello. Okay, so today we don't have a trivia quiz or anything like that, but we do have a very fun activity. This is similar to the camping episode Endgame, where you guys race to find camping reservations on a busy summer weekend.
All right.
I believe I won that one.
You won it by a long shot. Yeah.
Just let the record show.
Yes. This time, I want you to race to find the cheapest lift tickets that you can find. And the weekend is going to be this coming weekend, Saturday, March 1st.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Okay. Any other constraints?
It has to be in Washington State.
Okay.
And you can't find tickets at Badger Mountain, which is one of the mountains that we talked about.
That makes sense. Badger Mountain is a volunteer-run nonprofit, and lift tickets are $15, so I doubt we're going to be able to beat that.
$15.
Yeah. Our friends at Soundside actually just did an episode on this, so go check that out.
Oh, that's great. You can't even get lunch for $15 anywhere.
I know. Can I use ChatGPT?
Oh, my gosh.
Interesting. Oh, my gosh. Let me think about that.
I mean, how is this just not like a race to demonstrate our prowess at technology?
No, you know what? No. You can't.
Okay.
No generative AI allowed.
Okay.
You can use Google.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, I'm looking up cheapest.
Oh, wait, I'm doing that too. Cheapest lift tickets in Washington.
Who can type it fastest?
It is using generative AI in the Google search.
Well, don't look at the AI.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
thing.
All right, I'm going to Reddit.
Okay, ski resort info. Let's see. White Pass.
This says Summit at Snoqualmie is the cheapest. Could that be true?
That feels untrue to me.
We don't have a cheaper one? Okay, well, I'm going to open it. Let's see.
Okay, I'm just going to go out on a limb and look up Hurricane Ridge.
So the Summit at Snoqualmie, it looks like it has adults starting at $79, but let's see when I put in the actual date. Saturday, March 1st? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, $119. That can't be the cheapest. Back to Reddit.
I'm finding a daily lift ticket at Hurricane Ridge for $57.
Wait, what about the Leavenworth Ski Hill?
This Saturday?
Oh, let me see if they have tickets still. Oh, you're right. Out of stock.
It's going to be hard. This Saturday is going to be really hard. But it's March 1st. Winter's ending. Okay. You got to get to the hill.
Okay, I took my 3-year-old to the Leavenworth Ski Hill, which is barely a ski area, but it has a little rope tow. Does this count, Lucy?
Yes, it does count.
Okay, adult $31.
I'm looking up.
That may win.
I'm looking up Mission Ridge as we speak. Ooh, $89.
Okay, it looks like they have tickets available for this Saturday at the Leavenworth Ski Hill for $31, but they have to be purchased in person.
That counts.
Okay.
Okay, Monica has found $31 lift tickets for this Saturday.
Okay.
That's for an adult. For children, it's free.
Wow.
And I got $89 tickets at Mission Ridge.
Okay, Monica wins. Great job.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, where do I need to go to get these cheap lift tickets?
Well, I kind of cheated because it's called Leavenworth Ski Hill. It's one hill with a rope tow, and then there's tubing, and it's great if you have little kids, but if you want any sort of a challenge, it's probably not going to be that satisfying.
Yeah.
But it is the cheapest. It was about $30 for adults and free for kids.
And you can throw in listening to the Alpenhorn in Leavenworth.
That's right. I did it in December. It was very sweet. They have a nice little cabin, and I would go again.
Yeah.
That's it for Booming. Thanks so much for listening. If you have a question about the economy that you want us to answer, email us at booming@kuow.org.
Also, special thanks to those of you who are donating to the show. We seriously couldn't do it without you. If you want to donate, go to kuow.org/booming. Thanks.
Our producer is Lucy Suchek. Our editor is Carol Smith. I'm Monica Nicholsberg.
I'm Joshua McNichols.
And we'll see you next time.
For decades, NPR listeners across the country have tuned in at the top of the hour to hear a live update on the latest local and national news. Now, you can catch all the local newscasts in a new place, your podcast feed. Listen to KUOW Newscast, updated every hour with new headlines. Find it in the KUOW app or wherever you get your podcasts.